Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and welcome to Makeover Monday. Makeover Monday is our day of the week where we just sort of like recalibrate our brain, who we want to become. Whatever you did last week's over. So if you got some things you want to add to your life, improve the quality of your existence, add to your spiritual life, your habits, your diet. Hey, it's a new week. Write them down, post them up on our Discord thread for our Patreon users, and everybody shares their Makeover Mondays. I've been going on a cleanse for a week. It's been 1 week. I'm back on Monday. It's been a 7-day juice and water fast, and I feel good.
Really? Okay.
Feeling good. It was hard. There was a lot of good food in Pittsburgh this weekend. I got to hang out with there was a lot of others out there and a lot of Zoomers out there, and Andrea Kay, and hung with Bob Healy and Zeb and Rachel and Jeff and and Matt Tubit and his significant other. It was wonderful.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a new movie out, a very relevant movie that I've been getting messaged about. What's it called, Mara?
Sound of Metal?
Sound of Metal, that's on Amazon Prime. The guy's got a Youth of Today, which is my old band hoodie, and he's wearing it around. But it's an interesting That's the
movie.
most
important feature.
That's the most. Well, it is an important feature because that's how I know about it.
Okay.
But it's about a drummer. I haven't seen it, but I just saw the trailer. But it's about a drummer who's like in a metal band, and he loses his hearing.
Because when he was 14 years old, he started listening to your band?
Yeah, I started listening to Youth of Today. I mean, drumming can ruin your hearing. That's for sure. But it's one of those things. Imagine if you are a drummer and you get carpal tunnel, or you're a drummer and you lose your hearing, or it's one of those things like we invest everything in. To be a drummer, it takes a lot to be a good drummer. Mm-hmm. And it's like to lose that thing that you've invested everything in, it's like devastating. This is like what a setup for the Srimad Bhagavatam. Losing the very thing that we feel like is our offering. But it seems like a very spiritual movie. And I'm not going to rate it because I didn't even see it. But somehow he works with the mentor and goes through and, like, what is your offering? Maybe I'm making it too spiritual than it actually is. But it seems like a spiritually significant
I think it won a bunch of awards and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw something about that.
And he's got a Youth of Today hoodie on.
So there's the octopus one. And then there's
watch the Octopus is my teacher, something like that.
My octopus teacher.
My octopus teacher. Octopus is my guru.
The Golden is my co-pilot.
Go Don't Go, of course, by Tom Essig produced that one.
Okay, there's that one. And then there's the Sound of Metal.
Sound of Metal. That is all you're allowed to watch on Netflix.
Featuring a hoodie.
Yeah.
All
right. So welcome, everybody. Anything else? Mara, who's teaching today? So if you're new to this, we have our Patreon program, patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. And we have yoga classes. We have a yoga school you can go to, basically, with classes and workshops. and a 12-step recovery program. Mara, who's teaching today?
Today we have asana with Claire Weatherly at 10 a.m. and there's a Bhakti recovery group meeting at 1.
Claire's like a Iyengar teacher or a Iyengar inspired teacher, so people love her. And these are all on there, and they stay up there, so you can go back and listen to old classes, and it's like you're getting a whole bunch of classes for a monthly donation, and we want to thank all our teachers. It's a great service. Monday morning. So let's dive into the Bhagavatam, Kaustubha, unless you've got something
More important to do?
Important to share.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm ready.
We're in the second canto.
We are. Been there for a while.
Yeah. You want to give us a little recap?
Should we chant our mantras first?
Yes. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devam saraswatim vyasam dato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamurandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Madatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. It's second canto, chapter 9, verse whatever Kaustubha tells me.
22 today.
Okay.
So maybe we'll read 22, 23, 24 today, see how it goes.
All right.
But what's happening is that we read earlier. Well, of course, in the previous chapter, Maharaj Pariksit had a whole series of questions that he put before Shukadeva Goswami. And to answer those questions, he began to tell a story about how Lord Brahma, first being in the universe, was born from this lotus flower in the darkness, how he was searching for connection to his source, but he could not locate that source. He was literally and figuratively in the darkness, but he heard one spiritual instruction. That was all he had to hang on to, right? One lifeline.
Yeah.
Is life like that for you? Life ever been like that? Just like, I got nothing but this.
Yeah.
Spiritual instruction, right?
That desperation is a great place.
Yeah.
I find that desperation work well with spiritual life.
So we got to keep it.
Yeah, because right? Sometimes when we have like a cushion, financial cushion, a living situation cushion, a family cushion, we feel like, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty together. I got my act together. I'm relatively clever. Mm-hmm. When you're destitute, you feel like I got nothing but God. And that's actually, it's a very beautiful place.
It's like, I've mentioned before, but like, since I just moved into this new neighborhood and I'm right where Prabhupada was like in that desperate stage, where he had no money. He really had no home. He was getting no response. He's in the winter in New York. He's never even seen snow before. He's got, they break into he's not even living in a real apartment. He's living like in a little office space or in someone else's yoga studio. And they break in, they steal his typewriter, which is like his one, used for his service. And, but you can see how deep his connection was to and it's the same thing here with Brahma, to his guru's order, right? To that instruction, to that service that he had. It was like everything to him. He was feeling it. So, he's written these diaries and spoken about that time. And you really, it's beautiful to see even the great devotees like in that. I don't know if desperation is the right word for him, but something like that. Where I've got nothing but this order. I've got nothing but this instruction. I'm going to hang on to it no matter how difficult how difficult things are. This is my lifeline.
Yeah, I think when you're a pure devotee, and it's a little bit different, but
definitely different, but there's something there too, right?
Yeah, there's something beautiful about having nothing
Yeah.
except that faith or that. I mean, my father told me one of the, my father died when I was 19, so it was one of these things like I don't remember that much about him. I remember a few things, but one story he told me was he was in a destitute position of driving. He used to work at night, and then he was driving the car and he got caught in a black ice thing. Car was spinning out of control. There's nobody on the road. It's pitch black. There's a massive snowstorm. Car gets pushed over the side of an embankment, and he's completely alone. Back then there's no cell phones. You're just like destitute, and he's just like, I'm gonna die out here. And he got scary, and he just said he just started praying. This is one of the stories, one of the few stories I remember from my father telling me, and he just started praying. And he just said he saw in the distance a cross on a hill, like a Christian cross, and he said, I'm gonna be
Walking to the
okay.
cross.
I'm gonna be okay. He was very religious, and he was prayed, and he was rescued and gave him some type of faith.
There you go.
So yeah, where we turn to in our times of destitution, that's sort of what makes our life, because it's really the choices and everything really we do in yoga, I think, is to refine our choices instead of going to a place where I can medicate that pain, ease that pain. I like turn that over right to my higher power, to my source, to God, to sweet baby Krishna, and I feel a relief immediately. And I feel like, you know what? My life's in your hands. I fully trust that. And that's a great mantra.
All right. Well, that's where Brahma was. He just got this one instruction it was only 2 syllables, tapa, perform austerities, So he went into meditation and he was initiated into the mantra from within, Krishna mantra. He was meditating on Krishna through this mantra. He did it for a very long time with great faith. And then the fruits of that manifested in the form of his darshan, or his vision of the spiritual realm. He saw the spiritual world, the world that is beyond this, the world that the Bhagavatam speaks of as the real source of this world, that this world is like a reflection of that world. He saw that world. He saw the inhabitants of that world. And then he saw Vishnu. And then he had a conversation with Vishnu. And that's what we're approaching. That's where we're at now, that conversation. I think when we spoke last on Thursday, he was offered a boon, ask any boon that you wish. And Lord Vishnu is going to have a few more words for him here, expressing how he's pleased, right? This is really the life of the disciple too, right? So one serves the guru and one is seeking their pleasure. And here, that affection between, in a sense, it's like that guru disciple affection is here, where Vishnu is expressing his pleasure that I gave you an instruction, you followed it, I'm pleased, so nice. And so here we get in these few verses, we'll hear Vishnu expressing his pleasure to Brahma. You ready?
Yeah. I'm thinking how like we hear about this Narada Muni, Brahma gets this vision of the Lord, and then the Lord disappears, and they're left. They've got that focus now that's driving them forward. I think it's sort of safe to say that, I mean, all these people I'm seeing on Zoom right now are a little Zoom family, as well as like our regular others out there, because I don't want to dismiss them.
Don't leave the others out.
I can't leave the others out. They're out there, man. They're out there on a regular basis.
You've seen this weekend.
I've seen this week, and they come up. I'm another. I listen every day, but I'm another. It's so interesting. But it's like they've had a vision. They've had some taste of spiritual life that diminishes all other mundane material tastes. And from that taste, they've been affected in a deep way. And they keep coming back. It's not because maybe they're getting it 100, all day long, 24/7, but something happened to them that affected them in a deep way.
They can't forget.
Yeah.
And now they're hooked.
Now they're hooked. Look at Mara.
Right?
She's here every day. She can't figure out why. She has some deep,
Sometimes she
takes.
really wonders.
Why am I doing this? Is it habit? It's just I can't stop doing it. Now we get some taste. We want to come back. And then we try to get that, and we get that taste again, and then it disappears again. That's normal. If you don't feel like I'm not as high, I remember when it was high. Guess what? It's going to keep coming and disappearing, and coming and disappearing, and you're going to be like Narada. You're going to be like Brahmaji, and you're going to be chasing that, and that is the chase that's gonna we're gonna chase it right out of the material world.
Mars Prickett too, right?
Yeah.
He had that vision. He
had that vision.
And he was searching for it.
We're going to jog right out of the material world, chasing that vision.
All right. You want to read it?
Right. Yeah. 20, want to start 21? 22. Okay. The highest professional ingenuity is the personal perception of my abodes. And this has been possible because of your submissive attitude in the performance of severe penance according to my order. He's not haughty. You don't approach the guru, the teacher, in a haughty way, a challenging way. You're just not going to get the love.
It's about getting the love.
You approach in a very sweet way.
Yeah, you're also not going to get the realization or the understanding too, I think, right? Yeah.
One Swami told me that he went to an Ayurvedic, like one of these there's a famous Ayurvedic doctor in Mumbai, and he went to he wanted to study Ayurveda. He was already an MD, and he wanted to study Ayurveda, so he went to a very traditional Ayurvedic, like Kavi, one of these forest dwelling guys who is renowned, but not in big circles in the world, but within. But
those that knew.
Those that knew this was most respected. And he had some forest ashram, and he was a Bombay boy. Came and he went to practice, and he said the Ayurveda. He would say, "Yeah, I want to come here and learn. I'm an MD," and the guy wouldn't even speak to him. He just sort of like brushed him off.
They're testing him, right?
He was testing him, and then he said that he made him do completely menial service, sweep up, dust things. Here's the guy who just got, he just graduated, just got his PhD. And after 4 days, he said, "Listen, I'll teach you this stuff, but you got to promise to have no illicit sex as my student. You can't, as a doctor who's setting an example, you can't put any intoxicants in your body." Mm-hmm. And what's the other one we follow? No, illicit. I don't think he said gambling. And vegetarianism. You got to be a strict vegetarian, or else I'm not going to share any of this stuff with you. So it's one of those things. Yeah. First, you have to have the qualification to be a student. Here's a guy. He's a PhD. He's very learned. He just graduated. He probably could get a great job anywhere, and he wants to learn this spiritual healing process connected to the Vedas. And the guy puts him through the old school way of, this is how you are a student, and then I'll teach.
That's a common element that you hear in many stories, right?
Yeah.
There's that great story about I really should remember his name, but of this South Indian Sri Vaishnava disciple who says, "What is a Vaishnava? What is a devotee of God?" And his guru says, "Oh, to get the answer to that, you should go hear from this other person," right? So he was in Sri Rangam. He said, "You should go talk to this person in Kanchipuram," which is, I don't know, hundreds of miles away. And so he walks through the forest, and who knows how long it took him to get there. And he gets there, and he says, he meets the guru, and he says, "Well, my guru has sent me to you to get the answer to this question." And he says, "Okay, fine, but meanwhile, do this and do that." And he just begins to instruct him to do service. And he waits months and months before he actually asks the question, right? Before the guru says, "Okay, what was your question?" He's so submissive, right. And so he honors him so much, that he's like, "Okay, when it's time for me to ask my question, he'll tell me." And he didn't know how long it was going to be, how many months it would be, how many years it would be, But yeah, Our
We want a
culture
quick
hasn't
fix.
raised us with that so much, and it's nice to hear these stories, and it's nice to have the opportunity to live a little bit like that and think a little bit more like that. It's
Yeah.
interesting in the commentary to this. We can read some of this commentary, but Prabhupada uses a phrase. It's interesting. I'm not sure where he picked it up, because this is an early purport. This is like, I think he wrote. I'm not sure where he was when he wrote the second canto purport, but he's probably in America, maybe at 26 Second Avenue or something like that, or maybe even around the corner from where I am. Not. I think anyway. I'm not sure, but he says. He says, these are the secrets of attaining the highest perfectional stage. He said, Lord Brahma exactly followed these principles without any superiority complex, right? Superiority complex. But
Yeah,
generally,
we learn a little and then we get a little arrogant.
we get a little
It also
arrogant.
says a lot about the teacher as well, too, because the teacher has good character, which is sort of like the goal of education anyway, to have some good character. The teacher has good character, and that's what the student is also imbibing, that character of the teacher. Which is another thing that law nowadays you can become a tenured professor and have the worst character ever.
Yeah.
You just have to get us. You have to be around. You got to put in your time. You got to get your degree and write your papers, and then you become this professor. But if it's not based on character,
Mm,
your students are your students imbibe your character. That also gets transferred in the transfer of some
sure.
knowledge.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a big thing about this tradition, which I really appreciate. My son's learning Mridanga from a teacher, from a nice devotee,
Hmm.
and the devotee, it's like it makes a big difference. You're not just learning the drum from
You
any
don't
guy.
want to send him to someone whose character you don't respect.
Yeah, of course, because he's
Yeah.
imbibing. He's saying, "Oh, this is how a Vaishnav behaves. This is how a Vaishnav speaks. This
Hmm.
is how, this
You
is
know
how they live."
what I also like about your story, and you're speaking about the character of this Ayurvedic Kavi guru teacher, is that it's tempting when one is in that role to collect followers too, right? But he's saying, no, I'm not interested in any
And
follower.
then, right, that's
I,
beautiful.
I'm looking for someone that's worthy of these teachings, that's going to honor them, respect them, become a representative of them. And
Sure.
that's more important to me than the number of people that are following and the influence that I might get from that, the money that I might get from that. I'm not concerned with that. My role is I represent these teachings. I'm looking for someone who's capable, worthy of representing these teachings properly. And as a matter of fact, I'm not so interested in sharing them with someone who may misrepresent them.
Yeah, why are we sharing this? We should keep this private. We should have a very strong vetting. You want to get on Zoom? We have a very strong vetting process. Sorry about that.
And so in any case, it's that, if you're, this would be here's a piece of advice coming through these kind of stories, that if you're interested in finding a genuine spiritual teacher, look for someone that may test you, that may make some demands on you in terms of your behavior, in terms of your character. Because if they're offering something genuine, then they rightly should be concerned, about who to invest that time and energy with.
Yeah, they're gonna correct you. Expect to be corrected. Live to be corrected.
Live to be corrected.
But you want to be corrected, but yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's read some of the purport here. Prabhupada writes, the highest perfectional stage of life is to know the Lord by actual perception, by the grace of the Lord. So he said in the verse, he said, the highest perfectional ingenuity is the personal perception of my abodes. And this has been possible because of your submissive attitude in the performance of severe penance, austerity, according to my order. So you had you followed the order. It was a difficult order, and you did it with the right disposition, and you got the highest perfectional stage, the highest perception. So the highest perfectional stage of life is to know the Lord by actual perception, by the grace of the Lord. That's how it comes. This can be attained by everyone who is willing to discharge the act of devotional service to the Lord as enjoined in the revealed scriptures that are standard and accepted by bona fide acharyas, spiritual masters. For example, Bhagavad Gita is one of those texts, he says. For example, there's the Bhagavad Gita. It's approved by, it's an approved Vedic literature. It's accepted by the great acharyas, such as Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Chaitanya, Vishwanath, Baladev, Siddhanta Saraswati. These are names that if you're practicing yoga, if you're practicing bhakti, one should become familiar with, know them, know their teachings. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, he asks that one always be mindful of him, always be his devotee, always worship him, always bow down before the Lord. Hot seat, Raghu, what verse is he alluding to here?
Give me a hint.
It is found in the very center of the Bhagavad Gita and then repeated again at the end.
Mamana bhavama bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru.
That's right.
Boom.
Manmana. Boom.
Manmana.
So he says, and by doing so, one is sure to go back home, back to God. Without any doubt, one can have that darshan, that vision. In other places, also the same order is there, that one give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto the Lord without hesitation. And the Lord will give such a devotee all protection, right? Now, he says, these are the secrets of attaining the highest perfectional stage. Lord Brahma exactly followed these principles without any superiority complex. And thus he attained the highest perfectional stage of experiencing the abode of the Lord and the Lord himself with all his paraphernalia. Impersonal realization of the effulgence of the Lord's body is not the highest perfectional stage, nor is the Paramatma realization. The word manisita, manisita is significant, which I think was translated here as ingenuity. He says, everyone is falsely or factually proud of his so-called learning. But the Lord says that the highest perfectional stage of learning is to know him and his abode, devoid of all illusion. Okay. Text 23.
Text 23. O sinless Brahma, you may know from me that it was I who first ordered you to undergo penance when you were perplexed in your duty.
That voice you heard, that was me, right?
It was me. Such penance is my heart and soul, and therefore penance and I are non-different. I create this cosmos by such penance, and I maintain it by the same energy, and I withdraw it all by the same energy. Therefore, the potency is penance only. Interesting.
Yeah, so he's saying, and again, I think in text 24, it may have been there, that when we see the translation of the word penance, maybe it was in 20, it's actually the word is tapas. So it is austerity,
Austerity means you're pulling your senses in, you're going inside instead of trying to go outside to find your pleasure. So anyone on a spiritual path has to get to this point, no matter what tradition you're in. You have to curb going outside, not to just beat yourself up, but to find that the lasting pleasure comes internally.
Right, and that may involve external austerities, right? In other words, with that faith, I'm capable of performing external austerities because I'm feeling something deeper within.
This
and
fasting
so,
is keeping me really calm. Have you noticed that?
I'm sorry?
This fasting is keeping me really calm.
Oh, yeah, Raghu, it
Yeah.
is. You're right. You
That's
haven't
why
busted into like
I haven't
a
screamed
Broadway
yet.
song?
Well, I sang Monday in the beginning.
A little bit, but you didn't even get that into it,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just
Okay.
have to eat. Maybe I have to stop eating to become normal.
Okay, so here's the what's being spoken about here is in kind of a theme in the section that we're reading is that the internal energy or the spiritual energy is the energy of sacrifice, the energy of giving, and that spiritual realization really doesn't come without that sacrifice. But when one performs that sacrifice, as you're saying, one's happiness comes from within. One feels a deeper sense of of, you can say, of happiness, of truth. It's satisfying. So this is the
Yeah, it's
tip.
just right living, integrity driven living. There's like a we go internal to find our happiness.
Yeah.
And then ultimately we feel we feel a connection. We work the body, we take care of the body, we take care of the mind, we take care, but it's ultimately, it doesn't go past that to like ego, like, yeah, check out my body. We 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 were having this conversation this weekend, like, when do you start to work out or do yoga where after a point it can flip to the ego? Like, where do you find that worthiness from, that self-worth from? I was like, it's normal to find, it's normal if you feel like, oh, you're not taking care of your health, say, and you start exercising or doing yoga. It's natural to feel good about yourself. That's not a bad thing, because when you have something and you're taking care of it, those are things that give you worth. Those are like integrity. That's integrity driven living. Neglect is not integrity driven. But it's when you cross that threshold into, I get proud of it and check me out. That's where you lose it, and it happens when we get good at something. And so with bhakti, we always weave in, as we get excellent at something, a deep humiliation and appreciation for where we got this from in the first place. That's why we're always saying these prayers, these pranams, Om Jnana Tamarandasya. We are about to give some information, but it's not our information. Matter of fact, I knew nothing. The mantra says I was born blind. I was born like feeling around in the dark. And then somebody came to me and gave me some light. And now I can see a little clearer. And before I even say one word, I'm going to thank that person. So it keeps us right out of this arrogance, which is, we are all desperate in the material world looking for some validation. So whatever I get good at, check me out. This is what I specialize in. This is my specialty, and notice me. And it becomes pathetic and sad. And so,
It's true. I think, when it comes to yoga practice in the Western yoga culture, actually pride in the asana is actually pathetic, right? When you really think
yeah,
about it, it's in other words, even just from a purely material standpoint, it's like what yogis do when we do asana. Actually, there's people that like gymnasts and even like break dancers and like people that just do way more, like
exponentially better. The
yeah, what like
children's Russian circus of things
yeah,
they can do.
will put you to complete shame, right? If someone does a handstand or something like that, it's like, break dancers, like they do that, they walk all around, then they spin on their head, they do a drop
Well,
back
and
like it's nothing,
like it's nothing. And drop it. Well, the weird thing
yeah,
is also because it's somehow connected to the deep philosophy of the gurus, of the wisdom of the holders of the truth. It's somehow connected as a condiment. We've made it the
yes,
meal, but it's a condiment. Because it's connected with it, all you need to do is post enough pictures of yourself in advanced poses, and people look at you as like, you're a guru. You must be a guru, obviously, because you can place
so
your head,
advanced in
you can
yoga,
do Supta Baddha Karmasana.
yeah.
Like, no, tell me about my life. Immediately, you're like raised to a position of guru because you're a contortionist.
Yeah.
We've gone so off the track.
Right. Right. Okay. So let's hear a little of this commentary, a little excerpt. Oh, but by the way, so just to get back to this, he says that this penance, this sense of, and again here, penance, austerity, but I think especially it also means like the spirit of giving, of personal sacrifice, right? He says that this is my heart and soul, and therefore this penance, and really here is talking about like bhakti or devotional service. It says that this penance and I are non-different. We it is Krishna's energy, right? That it's not the external illusory energy, but that mood of service, it is composed of spiritual energy. When we are in the mood of service, we are absorbed in that spiritual energy, which is non-different from God. So Prabhupada writes, the penance by which one can see the personality of God at face to face is to be understood as devotional service to the Lord and nothing else, because only by discharging bhakti in transcendental love can one approach the Lord. So it means it's not just penance, but it's penance in the mood of love, right? It's devotional service. Such penance is the internal potency of the Lord and is non-different from him. Such acts of internal potency are exhibited by non-attachment for material enjoyment. That's how you know someone's absorbed in the internal spiritual energy, not the material energy, but their consciousness is absorbed in the spiritual energy, because they're losing interest. They've become detached. They have non-attachment to material enjoyment, not enjoyment in general, but material enjoyment. The living entities, in other words, enjoyment through external things. The living entities are encaged in the conditions of material bondage because of their propensity for overlordship, that superiority complex, right? I'm in control here. I'm adjusting things for my pleasure. But by engagement in devotional service of the Lord, one becomes detached from this enjoyment spirit. The devotees automatically become detached from worldly enjoyment. And this detachment is the result of perfect knowledge. Therefore, the penance of devotional service includes knowledge and detachment. And that is the manifestation of the transcendental potency. So that becomes a very important point in understanding the nature of bhakti yoga, that this very, what's commonly seen as a very lofty goal, even as the goal of yoga, of spirituality, is detachment. And when we see someone very detached, we think they're necessarily very advanced in yoga. And what it's saying here is that in the practice of bhakti, when one attaches themselves to the spiritual, or attaches themselves even emotionally to the spiritual, or to God, or to God's devotees, that spiritual attachment manifests as material detachment, even without a separate endeavor, right? Even without making that one's focus, that it comes automatically. When I become spiritually attached, I automatically become materially detached.
Yeah. And that's why oftentimes you hear devotees say, don't concentrate on what to give up. Concentrate on what to add to your life. Right?
Yeah.
When you add Krishna, when you add spirit to your life, your bad habits don't fit in it anymore. It doesn't feel good. You know, people, I used to teach yoga every morning. Actually, I still teach yoga every morning. But I used to teach, when I used to teach, after a while, people get serious about their asana practice. It doesn't feel good to stay up late and party anymore. You're not even pushing, hey, stop partying. It just, those things don't go well together. After a while, you like regulation. You like sattvic living. You like eating clean. You like internal. Your joy becomes a little bit more internal than external. It just happens. You develop this attachment to Krishna. You develop causeless knowledge, right? Information, have had to let go of the things you were attached to, in a distaste for those things as well.
Comes automatically.
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 I used to tell people, okay, you got to be vegetarian, you got to do this, you got to be. Now I just say, you just chant. If you just chant, you will be led. The chanting will lead you what to let go of.
Okay. Let's read on, shall we?
I mean, right? There's so many stories of these. There's so many stories of people who are renounced, but they have egos with their renunciation.
What, this is
The story of the milk brahmachari. Remember that one?
yes. I don't think he really did, but I think
They use it as an example or something.
it's used as an example, right? Do you want to tell the story?
There was a kirtan going on, and there was this.
Hold on, not just
every
a
night there was a
kirtan.
kirtan at Srivas Thakur's house.
Yeah,
Lord
hold on.
Chaitanya.
Let's dial it back just a bit, because just to give the full context here, right? So
They're in Mayapur. It's a cool night in Chaitra. Okay, what?
in other words, Sri Chaitanya, who's in our lineage, we accept as an avatar. He not even an avatar. He is Krishna, right? Who's come to practice bhakti, so he can taste bhakti himself. But in the early part of his life as a young person, he didn't manifest that side. He was more manifesting the kind of the naughty Krishna side rather than the devotional Radha side, which he would,
Right.
where he's the devotee. So, but at a certain point after he went to Gaya and he was given the Maha Mantra, and he comes back and his mood changes and he starts to become, rather than being absorbed in the mood of Krishna, the naughty running around, he becomes absorbed in the mood of Radha, the very purpose of his coming here. And he becomes deeply absorbed in the holy name, becomes deeply absorbed in kirtan. And all the local Vaishnavas, even for years, they were just saying, if only if only, Nimai, that was his name at that point, if only he became a Vaishnava, he would be the most, and now he has. And they're having kirtans together at night.
Every
but
night. And they're
every
blowing
night,
everybody.
yeah, but it's not like, because the external world, the area that they were living in was very much against the kirtan, and there was a lot of Muslims that were against it. Even the Muslim government was against it.
It was a fanatical, hardcore mogul rule right there. It was like
Yes,
forbidden.
it was
So they'd
forbidden.
go into these houses, their private houses.
Yeah,
and they
but
would-
not. It wasn't actually was. But even the Hindus were against it, right? And the scholars. It was kind of like a place of
A lot of
scholarship.
times
So
they were against it because they were also in fear of getting punished.
there's that element, but it wasn't only that. A lot of them were like, they were these very into rules and regulations and couldn't understand how sacred it was. And there were others that were like, that area was also an area of great learning and scholarship. A lot of scholars frowned upon it. What are these sentimental idiots doing? They couldn't understand. So in the beginning, it was done privately. But there was such ecstasy in these kirtans. It was just like oceans of divine ecstasy was happening every night. And this one very humble monk, brahmachari, I picture him as young. I'm not sure if he was.
I pictured him as old.
Really?
But it was a very strict lifestyle. He wouldn't eat nothing but milk.
Well, he had this very strict, simple diet where he would just have like a cup of milk every day. And so it didn't define his character. But what happened was,
He was probably a great person, but
yeah. But so he wanted to witness the kirtan. Just that was his own spiritual internal desire. And so Srivas Thakur, who's in home that was taking place, said, okay, they're kind of private what we're doing, but I could sneak you and you hide behind the pillar, right?
he's got to hide. He can go to the kirtan, but he's got to hide.
Yeah. And so then, so the kirtan's going on, and then after some time in the kirtan, Sri Chaitanya says, "There's something going on here. I'm not
Stop the
feeling.
kirtan.
Stop everything. Stop
Feel the
the kirtan.
same. Hold it. Put down the harmonium.
Put down the harmonium. There's something going on here. I sense something is different.
Something's wrong.
Is there someone here that shouldn't be here? What's going on?" So
No. Everyone's saying no. Something is definitely wrong here.
Yes. So Srivas Thakur, he would realize, okay, I'm busted here, right? It's like, okay. And he brings him out. Dear Lord, I brought in this very nice person. If he wanted to see the kirtan, I know maybe I wasn't supposed to, but he's really a special person. Like, I mean, he doesn't even, all he does, he doesn't even eat like regular food. Like he only drinks milk and like, how sometimes it's funny, like when some treaters are just focused on that, just because it's just take your milk drinker, and it's like, it's not simply by austerity that anyone understands what this kirtan is. Anyone understands what bhakti is. It's not by renunciation. It's devotion. Take your milk drinker. It's just going to call him like the milk drinker.
I mean, we don't in our country, we don't have a lot of people that are doing lots of austerities so much. We get proud of other things. We get proud of wealth. We get proud of like intelligence. We get proud of some
physical beauty, learning.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, but it was a big thing in India if you were very renounced and you could get proud of it. And I think Mahaprabhu wanted to make this point. It's nothing to do with anything external. It's got to do with the intention of the heart.
Yes. And that's right. And so in the practice of bhakti, factually, we may take up certain austerities directly or this or that, but the point is that detachment the real deep detachment, it comes, it's not the focus. It comes as a result of one's devotion. It comes as that material detachment. It manifests automatically as a result of one's spiritual attachment. And that point is made right in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, as soon as Sutta starts to speak to the sages. And something like, I think if you look at text 1 to 8, begins to talk about how knowledge, jnana and vairagya, knowledge and detachment, they come automatically through bhakti. It's not even a separate endeavor, isn't even needed. And it's significant because like great commentators, great writers on bhakti, like Rupa Goswami, he says in the Nectar Devotion, or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, very important text on bhakti yoga, he says that when one practices austerities or renunciation as the focus of their spiritual practice, it can easily lead, and the term he uses, he says, to a hardening of the heart, right?
Yeah.
A hardening, that one develops a certain pride, a certain arrogance, a certain hardness, when really the whole goal is to soften the heart. And so it is very possible that the quote unquote spiritual practices that one's doing are actually having the opposite effect if one's not careful. So Prabhupada goes on in the commentary, he says, one cannot enjoy material illusory prosperity if he desires to return home back to Godhead. If you want the spiritual realm, you can't be absorbed. You can't seek your pleasure in the material realm. One who has no information of the transcendental bliss of the association of the Lord foolishly desires to enjoy this temporary material happiness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that if someone sincerely wants to see the Lord and at the same time wants to enjoy this material world, he is considered to be a fool only. Prabhupada, that's how like Indian people put that word only at the end of sentences commonly, right? He's a fool only.
He's a fool only.
One who wants to remain here in the material world for material enjoyment has no business entering the eternal kingdom of God. Now, it's kind of like if we go back to the virtual reality idea. If you're in the virtual reality and you're confused by it and you're absorbed in it, you'll never understand that there's a world beyond that virtual reality because you're caught up in that virtual world. Now this is an interesting part where Prabhupada says, he says that one who wants to remain here in the material world for material enjoyment has no business entering the kingdom of God. The Lord favors. Now this is good. Let's say someone is like a devotee. I want to become a devotee of God, but I'm still attached to these material things. How may Krishna respond to that? He says, the Lord favors such a foolish devotee by snatching all that he may possess in the material world.
Oh.
Snatches it.
Oh.
That's why they call him Mara?
Hari.
Yes. Okay. The one who takes away, he steals, he takes away. He takes everything away, right? By such repeated failures in material prosperity. He says, if such a foolish devotee of the Lord tries to recoup his position, is it recoup or recoup? Did we say recoup? Huh?
It's recoup.
Yeah, I think it's recoup.
Okay, recoup his position. Then the merciful Lord again snatches away all that he may have possessed. By such repeated failures in material prosperity, he becomes very unpopular with his family members and friends. This is what spiritual life looks like, people. Okay, if it's starting to look like this, you're doing good.
Wait a second. I started chanting for abundance. You're saying it'll lose everything?
You're going to lose everything. Your family members, they're going to be disappointed with you. You're totally unpopular. In the material world.
It's such an interesting thing. He's almost glorifying bad luck.
Yes. Right. But this isn't normal bad luck. This is the special gift.
Well, when people are on a spiritual path, there is no more bad luck.
Yeah.
Everything is a blessing because we have that firm faith that it's all bringing us somewhere higher and higher and higher. Even what most people would appear like, oh, what a loser. Oh, that poor guy.
Yeah.
He doesn't have anything. He's suffering here. Oh, sad for him.
It goes on.
You're blessed.
He says, by such repeated failures in material prosperity, he becomes very unpopular with his family members and friends. In the material world, the family members and friends honor persons who are very successful in accumulating wealth by any means. The foolish devotee of the Lord is thus put into forcible penance by the grace of the Lord. And at the end, the devotee becomes perfectly happy being engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, penance in devotional service of the Lord, either by voluntary submission, which is what the wiser person does, or by being forced by the Lord, is necessary for attaining perfection. And thus such penance is the internal potency of the Lord. And this is it's kind of alluding to a verse from the Bhagavatam, 10th canto of Bhagavatam, where it said, I can pull it up. I think I lost it. Maybe I got it. Yeah. But it's a verse that more or less says exactly this. And it's a verse that Prabhupada would quote about his own life, that Krishna says, you know the verse I'm talking about, right, bro?
No.
Well, I mean, it's right on the subject, but where Krishna says, when I particularly favor someone,
Yeah.
I take everything away.
Yeah, I don't know that verse.
And so the context of that verse is that after Yudhishthira there's some talk of Lord Shiva at that point in the 10th canto. And so Maharaj Pariksit says to Sukadeva Goswami, he says, why is it that Lord Shiva, he's a renunciate, right? He walks around just like with a loincloth and covered in ashes and dreadlocks.
And nothing.
Yeah, dreadlocks. I mean, they meant it's like you're not taking care of your hair. It's like he's living out there like a renunciate.
Doesn't condition his hair.
Doesn't condition. There's no conditioner involved at all. And Maharaj Pariksit says, but his devotees, people that worship him, they become like wealthy and rich and materially prosperous. Now Krishna, he's living in all this opulence, right? But those that worship him, they end up like poor beggars. What's going on here? And then Sukadeva Goswami said the same exact question was asked by Yudhishthira to Krishna himself, because after he performed the Rajasuya sacrifice, wherein Krishna was established as the object of worship, and the whole sacrifice was done, for his pleasure, etc. Then Yudhishthira asked that same question: why is it that those that worship you lose everything? And that becomes a very significant question for Yudhishthira, right? Because he was Krishna's devotee and he lost everything again and again. So he went through so many tribulations and so on. Why is it that when we worship you, we're just like beggars all the time? And when people worship the other devas, they get all this, And that's where that verse is quoted, that Krishna says to Yudhishthira that when I really favor someone, I take everything away, right? And then they become desperate. Right where we started today's show, right? That sense of desperation.
Even before the show started, Mara and me, we were saying, "Hey, Mara, what are you doing?" We're trying to figure out life. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out life too. Krishna's left us in this place where what are we doing with our life?
I think what Mara said was trying to figure out how to prevent my life from falling apart.
Yeah, that's accurate.
I think a lot of people going through COVID.
Yeah, that's what's happening.
Krishna's being merciful in a way, going through this strange economic collapse for a lot of us.
Yeah,
trying to figure out life, and the things that we used to depend on maybe aren't there to support us, and we have to like really reach out to Krishna. Or what is really sadly going on, like people are going to addictions. Addiction is out of control right now.
Turn one way or the other, right?
Suicide. I just heard this thing about suicide in Japan is like more deaths from suicide than COVID in Japan. And it's just this horrible thing. And so the Bhagavatam gives us this opportunity to make a different choice, take a different type of shelter. Right. There's better ways to take shelter in this world.
I need you.
Oh, thank you, Lord Krishna. Thank you, all the servants of Lord Krishna, the devotees, the Bhakti-yogis. Thank you so much. Very grateful. And I'm grateful to be here again on a Monday morning.
Nicole got the verse. It's 10:88:8, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, she's on it. She's on it.
She's good.
Thanks
studying.
everybody for joining us. If you like what we're doing, you can support us. Patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. Your monthly contribution helps us keep this going. And we're grateful. Thanks everybody for joining us late on Zoom. You want to join Zoom, you just email us. wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. All these Zoomers chant 1 round of japa a day. Did you know that?
I'm not sure if they do.
We're raising the bar. We're going to take it to 2 rounds of japa in 2021. That's how you get on, or we take back the secret codes. We changed the password. Oh, and if you like what we're doing, if you listen on YouTube, if you're a YouTuber out there, like and subscribe it and comment on those YouTube videos. It makes a difference somehow. And then somehow when someone's searching wisdom, it will come higher ranked and they will get dragged into the Srimad Bhagavatam just like you have. And now you cannot escape. Welcome to the mob, the Transcendental Mafia.